Well, you asked me about Tabor Academy. At the time I was at Tabor Academy, from 1969 to 1972, it was a New England all-boys private preparatory school. There is a whole lot to culture of private New England prep schools that would be enough to fill up bushels full of videos. So let's get the nitty-gritty done and I'll tell you my stories. First of all, yes, it was a wonderful school, very strong academics, good solid sports program, and a very good solid, highly regarded program in teaching discipline and citizenship. I did very well in the sciences, but did not do very well in the humanities, the history and the English and the language. But I did very well in the sailing program, which was excellent, highly regarded for teaching discipline. Because with sailing, it is completely your fault if you lose, and it's by your work that you win. You can't blame it on another team member. Every individual is their own team. But that's the basics of a place like Tabor Academy, and that's a wonderful thing. So yes, I got a good education. However, as I said, it was a boarding school, but my family, my parents and my siblings, we lived in a wonderful home less than a half a mile from Tabor Academy, so I was a commuter student. I was not a boarding student. Although that excused me from the very strict rules of the dormitory, it relegated me to the lowest possible position on the pecking order. We were looked down upon. We were kind of, those who are kind of way off in their own little space. So, yes, I was able to benefit from the classes and the sports, and especially the sailing program, and some of the clubs. However, that was pretty much it, because before breakfast, before morning assembly, and after the evening sports, that's it. I went home to my mom and dad. Well, the other boys, the boarding kids, started to enjoy their exclusivity on their evening meal, which had a very high level of camaraderie, and of course their special activities in the evening, which I don't really want to go into because I don't really know. But I was at home with my loving, wonderful family. So there was this divide between myself and the rest of the Tabor family. As I mentioned before, I did have my passionate hobby in electronics and fixing radios and TV sets, which I soon took advantage of to try to set up a little bit of entrepreneurship. I tried to go into business of selling TV sets to my fellow classmates at Tabor Academy, because the rules were such that the boys could not have TV sets in their room, for a very good reason. Because in order to get the most you can out of a Tabor education, you needed to spend a lot of time studying. Not watching television, not reading comic books, studying. Well, some of the boys did not want to do that. They wanted to watch their favorite programs, and there were no TVs except for the one that was in the master's apartment. And the master is the faculty member who runs the dormitory. Each dormitory was like a house, like a family, of 6 to 7 to 10 boys, under the supervision of a house master. So once or twice a week, the house master and his wife would invite the boys into their living room to watch television. Well, the boys thought that was too little, too skimpy, and not enough. So they wanted to have TVs of their own. So I figured, okay, let's go to the town dump and find these little portable TV sets, take them, and try to fix them and sell them to the boys for $25 a piece, which was quite a bit of money at that time. We're talking about 1970. That business, that enterprise, that entrepreneurship lasted poor Robert. 2 weeks after I sold him his TV set, it broke down. Now, for those of you electronics wizards out there, it's obvious. These TV sets were at the dump. But they were on their last legs. And I'll admit, I only did the minimal amount of repair to get them running. So I was with my family at our Saturday morning breakfast table, finishing breakfast and getting ready to go back upstairs to my room to do my Saturday morning studying. Yes, I was a day student, and no, I was not under supervised study hall, but my parents were very, very demanding that I do my homework, especially my most loving mother. So, as I was ready to head upstairs, the phone rang, rudely interrupting us, and there was no cell phones then. It was a heavy, black, Bakelite phone. So we grabbed it, and this loud voice rasped from the receiver. Mom took it away from her ear in reflex and thrust the phone at me. It was Robert, complaining bitterly and angrily that his TV set is not working and he's missing his Saturday morning cartoons. I tried to apologize, but he kept interrupting with tirade. And I said, well, okay, I'll be right down. So I had to come up with a story. I told Mom that Robert needed some help with some homework, and they believed it. So I had to sneak down the basement of the house, grab some tools, and put them in an old paper shopping bag that I found in the trash, then went out and trudged my way to the campus to Robert's dormitory. And for you Tabor folks out there, he was living in the Baxter house on Front Street. And sure enough, the TV set was not working. Now, let's gently step back a little bit and give you a little bit of history. What I did not know, that Robert had a little problem. He was on academic probation. At places like Tabor Academy, if your grades fall below 70 out of 100, you're on academic probation, which means that you're much closer supervised by your teachers, and you're required to go to a supervised study hall, not in your room, but in a classroom every Saturday morning from 9 to 12. I didn't know that. And what also I didn't know is that Robert flunked out of his public high school, and his father was one of these people who figured if their son flunks out, let's throw the equivalent of $50,000 at a private school and hope, hope that they would shine like a star and get into a Ivy League college. Well, evidently that was not working, but I didn't know all this. So I go to his room. He was quite angry, and we had to take the TV set apart. So I was working on it. We had the TV set all apart, all the tools, all my test equipment, everything strewn all over the floor of this tiny two-person high school dorm room. The place was a real big mess. Now, what I did not know is that when a child is on probation, the headmaster of the school, of course, sends a letter to the parents. And Robert's father got the letter, and he got very, very concerned, quite naturally. And he decided to pay an unannounced visit to the school to find out what's going on with his dear beloved son, Robert. Well, I didn't know this was going on, and the way these things work at these places, at these schools, like Tabor, the parents generally come in and check in with the headmaster first, so the headmaster can help the parent find their child, which makes sense. I mean, you don't want the parent who pays $50,000 to wander aimlessly around trying to find their kid. Well, the headmaster says, okay, let's see. Yeah, he's supposed to be in ACI 101, the classroom for a supervised study hall. And so they go to the study hall. Nope, he wasn't there. Well, let's try the gym, because they are allowed to go to the sports practice during supervised study halls. They go to the gym. Not there either. Ooh, Well, let's try the science and math buildings. They're allowed to do science laboratory experiments during study hall. Nope. So, let's try the dormitory. Well, here I am working on that silly TV set that doesn't work. Break. Here I am working in this silly TV set that's not working. Everything all over the floor of that tiny room. And with no warning, suddenly the door to the room crashes open with a loud bang, and 4 men stormed in. The boy's father, the headmaster, the dorm master, and another faculty member whom I didn't know, but later on I guess must have been the boy's advisor. And they were all angry, and they were all stunned to see what was going on. Here was the boy and myself sitting on the floor with the TV set completely disassembled. Now, the boy's father, Robbie Sr., whoever his name is the kind of person that when he gets angry, he is the kind of person whose voice gets softer the more angry he gets. And that indicates that he could be more dangerous. Now, the boy's father walked up to me and stood like this. And he whispered one word, just one word, very softly, barely perceptible. Get out. If anyone was watching me run from that building down the street towards my family's home, they probably would have not seen me, because I ran faster than the speed of light to get away from that boy's home, that boy's room, to my house. So here we are, we're in Bellingham here, and we are about 50 years away from that. But that boy's father, his face, still scares me right now. Scared the BJs out of me. Well, I got home, and now here's my worry. What's going to happen with Mom and Dad when they find out? Surely the headmaster is going to do a report to Mom and Dad that did this naughty thing, corrupting the kids at Tabor Academy. It was a grueling, hard rest of the day Saturday, all day Sunday, until Monday. I figured the hammer would fall on my head Monday morning. Nothing happened. It made it more frustrating and fearful. I walked to school, and the boy came up to me very angry and said, "Get all that junk out of my room." He was quite angry. He was also very scared. So yes, I had to gather everything up and schlep everything back to our home. And I had to dump it in the garage because I did not want my parents to see what I was doing. And the boy demanded his $25 back, and boy, I was glad to give that back to him to get the whole thing done. Thereafter, the boy avoided me like the plague. If we were to meet on the sidewalk like this, the boy would cross the street and do a wide arc around me and continue on. We did the same thing in the hallways. He wanted to avoid me as if I was, radiation, whatever. The whole week was frustrating because nothing happened at home. I'm sensitive to my parents, and they're sensitive to me. And I would have known if they got word from Mr. Wickenden, the headmaster, that I did the thing. But there was no indication from my parents, nor siblings, nor their friends. Nothing at all. And my younger brother had another friend at Tabor Academy. He heard nothing. It was completely sealed, bottled up, never went to the family. It wasn't until 2 weeks later, during an evening assembly when they give awards, I had to help set up the PA system, and I stood in the back of the auditorium, and the headmaster walked up to me and thanked me for what I did, but he also gently laid his arm around my shoulder like a father to a son. He whispered one word into my ear, and that word was, "Please." Then he took his arm off of my shoulder and walked away to talk to some other students or faculty. But he knew that I knew that he knew that I knew what he meant was, please do not try to sell TV sets to my students. Now, this is where it's interesting. That was not as much a reprimand as a plea, as if he was a child pleading to his parents, "Please don't hurt me." Now this was getting outright bizarre. Mr. Wickenden was an extremely capable headmaster. He kept the school going. He was a good diplomat or negotiator with the parents. He coddled the parents, he coddled the alumni, and he coddled the board of trustees. He kept a tight rein on everything going on in that school. His finger felt the pulse of the academics, the sports, the drama, everything in that school. And now, why is he begging to me like a petulant child for me to stop selling TV sets to his students? And moreover, why were my parents not even informed? This kept on going. Nothing. About 2 months after this, I figured, okay, if they're not going to know now, they're not going to know at all. So then at that point, I schlepped the stuff that was laying in the garage downstairs, and I told my father, well, I forgot it. We took it from the dump and we left in the garage, and he didn't even react. He said, fine, whatever. Dinner's at 6 p.m., see you tonight, whatever. Okay, so it was not until 40 years later, I had a wonderful conversation with my parents to talk about my life, what was happening. In fact, I was calling from Great Britain, I think. I was on a vacation 30 to 40 years later. And we talked about many things. And I asked my parents, my mom, and I asked, did Mr. Wickenden ever tell you about this thing I did at Tabor? And they were completely confused. What did you do at Tabor? You did well. Mr. Wickenden liked you. You kept everything running. What the heck are you talking about? And I spilled the whole thing to them. After a long silence, Mom said, "What?" And Dad laughed. They were never, ever informed by Mr. Wickenden of what I did. Okay, I was stunned. We talked about a few things and we got off. I was completely stunned. Complete disconnect. Almost a dereliction of duty on the part of the headmaster. But 2 weeks later, the whole thing came together. And, okay, here it is. At the time I was going there, Tabor Academy had no endowment. Now, they have a really big endowment now. They're in really good financial shape right now. But at that time, they were literally living hand to mouth. And couple that with the fact that I was repairing all their electronic equipment free of charge. They were talking about the auditorium PA system, the gymnasium PA system, the football field PA system, the intercom for the classrooms, hello, and their electronic organs. Kept all that stuff going. We were in a small town, Marion, Massachusetts, and if they had to send all that stuff out to be fixed or bring a technician in, he would probably have to come from Boston and it would be expensive. So I realized I've saved Tabor a lot of money. And here's what I think is probably what's going on. The headmaster probably feared me than I feared him. It was a case in his mind, and I talked to Mom about this, she agreed. My parents agreed this is probably it. In the headmaster's mind, the school needed me more than I needed them. Now, this was completely over my head at the time because I was living a life of naivete. I was very, very naive, and it never even crossed my mind that this kind of thing happened at Tabor Academy. That the school felt, in the mind of the headmaster, that they needed me more than I needed them. Now, I still got a wonderful education, wonderful time. Things were wonderful, the graduation. But then some things started to change at my 25th class reunion. Well, the typical high school reunion always has a cocktail hour, then dinner, then an evening cocktail hour. The afternoon cocktail hour was for each class, and they portioned to separate classes. It was typical. They always have the circus tent out in the front lawn for the happy hour. Then the same tent was used for the dinner. Then they had the evening coffee hour in the atrium one in the building. This is standard. You know, cookie cutter prep school reunion. They mass manufactured these in central casting and they distributed them out to all the New England prep schools. So I went to my class I'm sorry, happy hour. It was in the tent, and there was another class happy hour going, happy hour there, and another one there. And some of the faculty were there, and I was chatting with one of the faculty members, and a guy walked up to me. Now, you have to understand, this person was one of the most premier big men on campus. He was like a captain of the football team and the basketball team and the baseball team, all this stuff. And I was just a sailor in the sailing team. And the sailing team is nothing compared to the varsity sports. I mean, the sailing team was just like, the dredges. So he came up to me and he was very salacious, much more so than we ever were when we were students during the school year. And he said, "Oh, hi, Mark." And some alarm bells started to ring here. And I said, "Oh, hello, Bob." I think his name was Bob. "Hello, Robert. How are you doing?" And said a few things back and forth. And he said, "Well, by the way, I understand that you now are living in Seattle." And I said, "Yes, but a lot more alarm bells were ringing in the control room of the fire station inside here. I mean, it was total bedlam." And he said, "Well, I think I've got a job offer coming at Boeing in Seattle." And I said, "Well, fine, congratulations." He said, "Well, I don't know when I'll get my first paycheck. Could I stay with you for a while?" Now, by this time, it was not only bedlam, but we're talking about total chaos going on in the control room in here. Bells were ringing, buzzers were buzzing, sirens were wailing, and everybody was running around in circles. And I said, "Okay, I'm sorry. I have a tiny one-room apartment, and there's barely room for myself. I'm sorry, I don't think I can host you." He was very disappointed, and he stalked off, almost angrily. And then I went off into a buffet line, or a line waiting for drinks, and there was another student who looked at me very strangely, and as I got closer to him, he said to me, "Did Robert ask you for a place to stay?" And by this time, it was so bad, chaos going on here, they had to bring the National Guard to quiet everything down in this control room. And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, you might want to know, Robert just got released from the state penitentiary in Stark, Florida." I said, "Oh my gosh." My stomach dropped 15 stories below the basement. And I said, "What for?" He didn't answer, he stalked off. Now, he just got released from Stark, but for what? Oh my God. Okay, so that was that one. Oh my God. Oh my God. Then we had dinner, and because I was such a loner on campus, I didn't really know anyone well in my class or any class. I sat with the faculty, some of the old faculty members, and then I noticed that our favorite biology teacher, wonderful man by the name of Gilbert, he was in a wheelchair. And oh my God, he was not doing well. "Hello, how you doing?"
Good, how are you?
All right, and just doing a television thing. He was suffering from terminal cancer, and he was in a wheelchair, and he could barely move. Very, very weak. But this person, you have to understand, he was very strict, but very fair, and an excellent teacher, biology. He was very, very knowledgeable. Not only that, but he could explain things with such enthusiasm that the students learned almost on the first crack. Wonderful man, but very strict. Before the dinner even finished, he had to excuse himself so his son could wheel him home. He was very, very weak and had to go to bed early. The dinner ended, and this is when I made a stupid, dastardly mistake. I should have gone home with my family. But no, I decided to try the evening cocktail hour. So we left the dining room and went to the lobby of one of the buildings where they set it up for the evening cocktail hour. Oops, first of all, no faculty were there at all. And really, I did not know much of anyone there who was close enough to me as a personal friend to share with. I felt like I was in a glass cylinder, isolated. And I was thinking, okay, I better get out of here and go back home to my mom and dad. Well, I was kind of thinking, do I want to go home and look like a fool leaving 5 minutes after getting here, or do I want to hang around for a while? So I figured, let's hang around and see what happens. But unfortunately, 6 feet away over there was another BMOC, big man on campus, 1 year ahead of me. Class of 71, I'm class of 72. He started to shout. He was totally blasted, stone drunk. Probably a blood alcohol content of 20. All right, hope he wasn't driving. That's a whole other story. I hate to say this. Pardon me if I choke. He started to cheer and mock Gilbert, the science teacher. He was cheering. He was so happy, the fact that this man was in a wheelchair suffering from terminal cancer. He was making fun of Gilbert, who was suffering from terminal cancer. Fortunately, Gilbert and the other faculty members were safely home with their families, getting ready to go to bed for the evening. I said to myself, I didn't say anything, but boy, I wanted to scream. I had to clench my fists silently on either side of me and remain dead silent. And I decided right then and there, let's get the heck out of here. But let's do it in a way not even extend the courtesy to let anyone know that I was leaving. So instead of walking out the door that was behind me, I walked to the kitchen. Said, excuse me, I need to get some water from the kitchen. So I walked quickly through the kitchen door, greeted the staff, said hi to them, continued to walk to the service entrance of the building, and greeted some staff bringing some food inside, and left the building, and went home to my parents. That was the last reunion I ever went to, and I never went to a class reunion again, except for one that was held virtually on the internet. And I vow never to attend a physical reunion, ever again. So there you have it. New England boarding school culture.